Story 1. I am still hungry sometimes when we make an amazing recipe, but I pretend to be full so he can have the rest. Story 2. I am not happy with my life, and it has nothing to do with you, but I find it hard to feel joy for anything these days. I didn't expect to receive so many responses, especially ones that empathized and went as deep as they have. I appreciate everyone who gave advice and shared their experiences and feelings. I wish nothing but happiness for all of you and hope you achieve whatever your heart desires. I am taking it one day at a time and trying to help those around me, as that brings me some small happiness. I love my partner very much and hope to be with them for the rest of my life, as they are the only consistent source of happiness I can think of. Story 3. I don't kill spiders unless she sees them. Live your life, little brother. Just stay cool and don't crawl across the ceiling when she is looking. Story 4. I love our morning routine so much that I often pretend to be asleep even when I wake up first. My partner sleeps deeply, but every time he wakes up, no matter how tired he is, he rolls over to me, hugs me, and gives me a good morning forehead kiss, whether or not I'm awake. I love those kisses so much that sometimes, when I wake up earlier than him, I nudge him out of his sleep and then pretend to be asleep just to feel him slowly waking up and rolling over to give me that forehead kiss. It's only been about 6 months with him, but that small gesture releases a million butterflies inside my heart and stomach, and I can't wait to experience it every single day when I can finally live with the love of my life. Story 5. How I get myself to sleep is by replaying our intimate moments in my mind. Both old and new, it makes me feel content and happy. Something about his facial expressions and the sounds he makes fills me with pride. Knowing he enjoys what I do to please him, it helps the bad days fade away and strengthens our connection of love. As cheesy as it sounds, it helps me sleep without nightmares. I'm afraid to express this because I don't want to hear my husband tease me for the rest of my life, especially since he has plenty of material as it is. This man is far too good at lighthearted teasing. Story 6. I am responsible for the house fire that burned our home down several years ago. It was an accident, and I was too ashamed to admit it. Don't worry, I came clean a couple of years ago. Story 7. I am physically repulsed by my wife. I still love her, enjoy spending time with her, and find her physically attractive after all these years. However, after a long period of a dead bedroom and being pushed away so often whenever I initiate intimacy, any attempt at more than a peck results in a negative response from her. I have essentially pulled back to protect myself. Whenever I think of cuddling, spooning, or showing physical affection, I now feel physically sick because I know the response I will receive. I just don't bother anymore. I maintain appearances with occasional touches or backstrokes as I walk past, but it feels like one-way traffic. When I do reach out, I have to stop myself from rolling my eyes so loudly that someone notices. I'm hesitant to walk away completely because we genuinely work well together and have a great life. Our kids are wonderful. We have talked things through repeatedly. I have worked on the problems she raised to improve myself. I am far from perfect, but I have made progress. Now, I find myself pulling back more and more and becoming more selfish. I know this is making her angry, which is not healthy either. I don't even bring up my concerns about our relationship anymore because there seems to be no point. I do what I need to maintain our daily lives, but I have basically stopped putting effort into my side of the relationship until I see a reason to resume. As I lie here on our nearly 20-year anniversary while she sleeps, not a single kiss or hug all day, I realize I didn't make the move. Thank you to everyone who has shared their experiences. Just knowing that others have been through similar situations and survived makes me feel better. These conversations have given me some good ideas to work through before I decide if this relationship is beyond saving. Addressing a couple of points raised. Our sex life has never been what I wanted in either frequency or variety, but it used to be once or twice a month, which I could accept if that was all she needed. Now it has dwindled to once or twice a year. I love foreplay, but she has always found many aspects of sex gross, preferring it to end sooner. The frequency dropped significantly after our first child, only improving slightly when trying for our second child. She is always concerned about the kids hearing or seeing us, but nothing happens even when we have the house to ourselves. We fell into a mother/maid dynamic early in our relationship, which she has raised and I have tried to address since then. Today, it often favors her due to her desire to control and manage things, which is simply her nature as opposed to my more casual approach. If I cook dinner, it has to be her way, and she gets anxious if I change ingredients or quantities. I do most of the household cleaning and outdoor work, but I feel that the more I contribute, the less responsive she becomes. I have no major vices or behaviors that cause conflict. I don't drink, gamble, or engage in promiscuous behavior, and I am more financially responsible than she is. Perhaps my biggest issue is that I am boring, but we are both introverts who enjoy staying home. I have discussed all of this with her endlessly. We generally have a good track record of communicating and addressing problems except for this one, which doesn't seem to change. I have expressed my feelings of constant rejection and how it feels like we are just friends raising kids. She has mentioned that she is not affectionate, so I try to give her space, which makes things worse. She prefers that I do things for her, but that is challenging because she needs to be in control. I once booked a surprise dinner at her favorite restaurant, but she wouldn't go unless I told her where we were going. I realize my account may sound worse than it is. She acknowledges her control issues. I fully accept that I am far from perfect. I have experienced anger and depressive episodes over the years, which have made me difficult to live with. These episodes have intensified in recent years as I faced mental challenges and sought help. She is much happier with the person I am now, but the level of attention has reduced further. My medication also complicates my ability to be more present. Anyway, thank you again for the support and advice. I hope we can all find peace. Story 8. I have never really liked his family's famous chicken recipe. It has always been a huge hit with all his family members, and my kids love it, but if you ask me, Church's is better. Story 9. I'm worried about her lack of hobbies. I've tried to encourage her to find something to fill her time. She is the love of my life, my best partner, and my best friend, but she goes to work and plays mindless mobile games, and that's it. It concerns me that this may become a pattern for our future children. I'm open to suggestions on how to approach this because I'm unsure how to do it delicately. Our relationship is great in every other aspect. Life is full of opportunities and interesting things, and it's not conducive to spend your time staring at a phone all afternoon. Story 10. Absolutely nothing. My wife has stood by my side through aggressive stage 3 cancer at a young age, through chronic nerve pain that shoots from my pelvis down both legs due to a mesh failure from my third major operation, and through a 9-year battle with opioid addiction that followed. She knows everything about me, from my darkest moments to my quirks. Honestly, at this point, I could probably confess to being Batman and she would just ask if I remembered to take the garbage out. Story 11. I rewatch shows and movies with her so that she thinks we are watching them for the first time. We have a rule that if one of us has watched a show, the other person will not watch it. It needs to be new for both of us. Story 12. Sometimes his attention deficit hyperactivity disorder drives me insane to the point that I daydream about living in my own little apartment by myself. Then I remember how much I love the life we have built, and my patience for him returns. To be fair, he has improved significantly since we met. I am just a perfectionist and very rigid. We balance each other out. Story 13. I don't keep secrets from him unless it involves something I'm temporarily hiding, like a birthday present. Story 14. My ex-wife thought I was having 3 drinks a night, and the hangovers were just getting worse because I was getting older. To be fair, she never saw me take more than 3 drinks because I didn't want to worry her. I was actually drinking about 20 to 30 drinks a night before I quit. She surprised me by having an affair with her boss. I have been sober for about 8 years, and the only thing my fiancé doesn't know is that sometimes, instead of renovating our basement, I just put on my work clothes and play on my phone because I need alone time. Story 15. I hide candy and chocolates by my side of the bed. Sometimes, forbidden treats taste better when enjoyed in the dark while scrolling through social media. Story 16. I have learned from my past experiences and I am not going back. It is freeing and comforting to know that she understands everything about me and still accepts and loves me. Story 17. I'm actually very ticklish. When we were dating, she would tickle me, and I would hold it in at all costs and deadpan tell her that I'm just not ticklish. I did this because I hate being tickled and hoped she would stop because it was a waste of time. It worked. 23 years later, she still thinks I'm not ticklish, but I am. Story 18. My wife is an avid metal detectorist, rock collector, and hoarder of shiny things. When we first got together, she told me how she was really good at finding coins in the street. We lived downtown and walked to get around, traveling all over North America. Everywhere we went, I would toss coins ahead of us if she wasn't paying attention and then walk past them, stop, and hover for a moment until she noticed. I would then congratulate her on her find. She would get so excited. She caught me once at LaGuardia. It was a 50-cent piece that made too much noise. She found it immediately, then asked if I had thrown it. I watched her figure out in real time that I had been playing a trick on her all along. She was heartbroken, so I just tell her everything now. Story 19. I have been married for 20 years next year. I do not keep any secrets from my wife. After her, she is my favorite person in the world, followed by our children. She knows everything. Do not keep secrets from your partners or children. Story 20. I know he actually got us kicked out of the hotel we were staying in for our honeymoon, and he lied about it because he was embarrassed. I would have lost my temper. I let him think I believed I left the ring at home by accident. That is one of the other secrets. I know he lost my wedding ring when we went on vacation about 10 years ago. He bought a replacement, but I'll never tell him I know. He felt so guilty that he almost confessed a few times. Story 21. I crashed my car the other day. He came around last night and asked me if I needed any cash. He offered to help, which was sweet, but I lied and said it was fine. I can't afford to pay for it, but I don't want to tell him this, as he already does so much for me. Story 22. I'm not sure I know what true love is. Almost all of my relationships have followed the same pattern. Infatuation. She's pretty and cool and seems like the one. In reality, she was probably just nice to me for a few minutes or acted interested in something I had to say. The capture and conquest. I have to have her. I have to make her want me. We have intimacy. The honeymoon period. This is wonderful. I am loved. This could be forever. The creeping rot. I get jealous, sometimes about virtually nothing. Things seem too good to be true. She is probably lying or exaggerating her feelings. It's serious. We move in together. We start talking long-term plans. Maybe even discuss marriage or children. Over it, I want out. I self-sabotage. I get mean and try to chase them away. I'm constantly jealous. I start to wonder if I ever really did feel love, or if I just need the space in my life filled with someone else. There's a section in the book, Brief Interviews with Hideous Men, that made me take a really uncomfortable look at this pattern. I think the character says something along the lines of, I'm just not a closer. It's always the same. I get what I want and suddenly I don't want it anymore. If any single ladies are reading this and want their hearts broken, my messages are always open. Story 23. I know how often they browse inappropriate content multiple times a day and even at work. They lied and created a new account instead of deleting Reddit after promising they were done using it. Story 24. Sometimes I pretend to be confident so he doesn't think I am too insecure, and I act like the things that bother me do not really bother me. Story 25. I feel that I don't deserve her. I don't deserve her comfort, care, or love. My mind has been troubling me for so long that the idea of having someone like her seems impossible. I always hear a voice in my head telling me that I will ruin everything, no matter how hard I try. I understand that her lack of expressiveness doesn't help. I said I would wait until she feels comfortable enough to open up, but I don't know how long I can wait. Story 26. I had a relationship with my ex-wife a week after we started dating. I didn't know she would eventually become my wife, and my ex and I had been talking right before we met. Story 27. All proprietary information regarding nuclear power generation that my employer requires me to read while at work. Story 28. My chronic pain is much worse than I let on, but I do not want to alarm him or anyone else or sound too negative. I have been to specialists, and there is nothing they can do. I have found little ways to manage the pain, but some days it is so unbearable that I can hardly exist. Story 29. I am very envious of this online friend he has because I can hear his genuine laughter. I have no idea what he is thinking when he talks to them. I try to listen in when it's late, but that only makes my insecurities worse. Maybe he settled for me because I know there are people better than me out there. He knows I love him, but he doesn't realize that I would do anything to make his life better. We have been married for 2 years as of September and have big plans for next year. To be honest, I wish he was a little more obsessed with me. Also, I want to acknowledge that I am insecure and I am working on it. Story 30. This is a wholesome secret. When my partner is not around, I tell our son to say, Papa. He is only 5 months old right now, but I hope my partner will get to share a special moment with our son like that. Of course, when we are together, it's say mama, no say papa, just because it's fun. However, I'm secretly rooting for him to say papa first and will not tell my partner that I've been encouraging our baby to say papa all day when he is at work. I want my partner to feel special, so I'm going to keep it to myself. Story 31. My wife doesn't know my real name. I have been in the French Foreign Legion for 9 years. I originally come from Japan and now live and have a family here in France. When I started training in the French Foreign Legion, they removed my real identity and replaced it with a new one. I never retired from the French Foreign Legion, so my new identity is still me. Story 32. I want a break, just for the weekend, where I can be alone with no titles. Please do not call or text me either. I want to take a walk, enjoy some shopping, eat fruit until my stomach hurts, and then curl up under my blanket with a good book and a flashlight. I need a mental health weekend. Story 33. I was assaulted by a man when I was 18. I am a man. I do not feel the need to discuss it all with her. Secretly, I am afraid it might make her see me differently. I have spent a lifetime processing all of this myself and feel I am in a good place despite what happened so many years ago. It is difficult and not something I want to introduce into my loving relationship with my wife, nor is it something I want to revisit. Story 34. I gave up soda a while ago. I told him to stay on top of me so I wouldn't drink it. It's a horrible habit. However, once a month when I'm out grocery shopping, I stop at McDonald's for a soda. Something in that machine calls me. I finish it and throw it away with no evidence left behind. Story 35. It was nicotine lozenges until my toddler came into the room shaking 2 of the containers like maracas. Story 36. Up until last year, I kept a small plate with cocaine under my bathroom sink, and I would sneak off for a line while we were relaxing and watching television after work. I don't do it anymore, but she absolutely hates it, so I did this in secret for about 3 years. Story 37. We often discuss our finances, including our bills and expenses. I reassure my husband that we are doing well, even though that is not the case. We owe more than he realizes. I have always been the one to handle the bills and manage our finances. Story 38. He is the complete opposite of what I want and need at this point in my life. He wants to party, drink, and be out all the time. I want nice dinners, shows, fun, and interesting experiences with someone intelligent, kind, thoughtful, and mature. I don't even really like him anymore. He is not a good person. I just need his rent money. I am miserable. Story 39. I am deeply in love with him, and my heart will never heal when we break up. I am trying to stay calm and enjoy the moment, but each day that passes is a day closer to not wanting to love again. Story 40. I encouraged her to have a second child before we were truly ready because I had doubts about being the father of our son. Turns out we really do have redheads. Story 41. I don't know if I'm happy or not in my relationship half the time. I love my wife and my son and wouldn't trade anything for my family, but the second-guessing doubt gnawing at me eats away at my peace for no good reason. Story 42. I have a secret stash of Oreos that I put in the cabinet above the refrigerator. My wife is quite short and I know they are safe there. Sometimes, I need a couple of Oreos and want to be sure they will be there when the time comes. Story 43. I lost my virginity in my freshman year to a junior after my original girlfriend and I broke up. My girlfriend and I started dating again a few months later, and she thought we lost our virginity to each other during the fall of my sophomore year. Story 44. I feel comfortable enough to tell him anything and everything, even more so than my parents or my doctor. The only secret is my exact home address since we are in a long-distance relationship. I won't give that away until my family is comfortable having him over when he comes to visit. Story 45. I'm slightly okay that our wedding date was delayed. It's given me more time to work on learning American Sign Language to one of the songs I want played so I can surprise him with it. He dislikes surprises. He's going to cry. I'm going to make my husband cry at our wedding, probably. Sorry, not sorry, babe. Story 46. I use Reddit as a diary. I don't want him going through my phone the same way I wouldn't want him going through my diary. I don't want him knowing my thoughts on things before I'm ready to confront him about them. Story 47. The reason I do the chores is to make him happy and to keep myself busy so my mind doesn't have time to feel sad or angry. I feel happy when I see him and the kids enjoying dinner. It's the only constant hobby I have that I feel makes life worthwhile, and it's not something that wastes money. I do the chores to maintain my happiness. Story 48. I often daydream about being somewhere else with someone else. It's not his fault, but I feel unfulfilled and unmotivated because I chose to spend my life with him instead of pursuing my dreams. Story 49. I work much harder than she realizes to manage my depression. Journaling, phone calls with therapists, and maintaining a healthy diet and exercise routine require a lot of effort to keep the depression at bay. She is aware of my history but not of the daily struggle it entails, which can be exhausting. She knows I have bad days, but not how severe they can be. I love her and don't want to worry or burden her with it. Story 50. When my cancer returned, it was at stage 4. I kept it a secret from 2020 to 2025. Unfortunately, one night I got drunk and let it slip. I didn't want her to worry too much. Story 51. Your friendship with your coworker makes me feel insecure. However, that is a problem with me and not with him, so I choose not to express it because it would be toxic. Story 52. I know he is unfaithful, and I am only with him because I cannot afford to leave. I discovered this in a rather amusing way. Story 53. I relapsed. I know I am going to tell him. I am just so scared to see that look of disappointment from him again. Story 54. I recently broke up but kept secret how much money I had saved. There was no malice in it. I just saved for the future. I knew that if she found out, the dynamic would change, and she would have the expectation that I would spend more money, which would only lead to arguments. Story 55. I love her truly, but I don't see myself with her in the future. She is one of my best friends, but our relationship is codependent. I am afraid to tell her that I want to do things without her that she doesn't like. Whenever I mention hanging out with friends during the weekend, she gets upset because she doesn't want to participate in those activities, and then she feels it's taking time away from her. I spend 5 days a week with her and every weekend. It feels like I'm never allowed to deviate from that. I also feel obligated to invite her to whatever I'm doing, even though I know she doesn't want to join. I value many aspects of our relationship and don't want to lose them. However, I don't want to fear my partner and I want the freedom to maintain friendships outside of our relationship. Story 56. As a 20-year-old college student in a 2.5-year relationship, I feel as if I'm missing out on college life. I am unable to go out and explore new experiences. I know that being unfaithful rarely ends well, and she is the only person I have ever been with. I am curious about what it is like to be with other women. Story 57. I stopped initiating sex because he often turned me down. I'm tired of the rejection. Now, after just 8 months, I'm frustrated by his lack of interest in intimacy. Story 58. I have sex toys that I keep in a discreet box inside my nightstand. This is information I will never share with him. Story 59. His redhead fetish is destroying my confidence, especially since he checks out other women and says to me, "Unless you physically get involved with a man, I don't care." Am I free to check out other men and make comments as well? In my eyes, he is the one and only. The others are just background characters, no matter how attractive they are. I wish he felt the same about me. Story 60. I was influenced into unwavering loyalty towards my family by my parents. Shortly after I graduated high school, my father fell seriously ill due to his long history of heavy smoking and alcoholism. However, he survived multiple times. I became his sole caretaker for many years. My father is not a good person. He treated us all poorly, especially when he was incapacitated. My perspective on him changed during that time. He took advantage of me, as if I were a soulless tool to use at his convenience. Later, he underwent a modern operation that restored much of his autonomy, and I decided to leave for university. I never shared this with my ex-partner. I feared he would look down on my family or our culture, even though I had mostly forgiven them. Nowadays, I avoid my father at gatherings in search of harmony. My ex has since ended our relationship. I am quite certain he looked down on me, mainly due to my status as a student in my late 20s. He was mistaken, but I was also wrong for feeling insecure and keeping secrets. These days, I am completely honest, even when it pains me to admit certain things. However, I feel authentic and allow people the opportunity to reveal their true selves based on their reactions. Story 61. I got so mad after an argument that I threw his glasses out of the window. He always wonders where they disappeared to. Story 62. His disability affects my life negatively in many ways. I love him, but the chronic pain and the resulting outbursts of anger, frustration, and sadness are challenging to endure, especially when directed at me and our child. I find myself managing all the heavy chores and many of the light ones as well. It's difficult to plan outdoor activities because he refuses to use assistive devices that could make hiking or setting up a campsite easier. Sometimes, it feels as though he resents me for being healthy and is consumed by bitterness and anger over issues we cannot resolve. Story 63. I commented before, but I have another one. So back on our first date, I accidentally told him that my favorite flowers are coral pink roses. I'm not sure if this was ever true, but I feel like it's the biggest lie I've ever told him. The truth is that at the time we met for our first date, I had read a story about a girl whose favorite flowers are coral pink roses and a man, her former lover, who brings a bouquet of coral pink roses to her grave every week. I remember loving the story and wishing something so romantic, hopefully not as sad, would happen to me as well. Since I didn't know I would become so serious about this guy, my current boyfriend, back when we were a third of the way into our first date, I accidentally told him that coral pink roses are my favorite flowers. I'm not really sure why I said that, and I thought about telling him that they're actually not my favorite. However, he brought me a single coral pink flower on our second date. Then, in both of the flower bouquets he has brought to me since we became official, they always included a coral pink flower. I don't dislike the flower, but I feel very strongly that I actually hate the color itself for a flower. I can't imagine how the girl in the story actually liked them. Like, are you sure you weren't half blind? Still, I really appreciate the flower just because my boyfriend has remembered every single time to include it in the bouquet he brings me. I'm probably never going to tell him the truth voluntarily, but maybe I can show him this later when we have a family and need a good story to tell our kids. Story 64. I identify as bisexual, but my attraction to the same sex includes a desire to embrace femininity. She is aware of my bisexuality but not the extent of my feelings. Story 65. I have watched his videos of him playing piano on YouTube before. He doesn't even know that I am aware of them. He plays so beautifully. Sometimes he sends me a video. Story 66. I don't know if I love her or if I hate the situation we are in. The apartment is always dirty. Even when I try to clean, it quickly returns to its normal state, with clothes lying around and mounds of dishes by her desk where she works and plays games, all while neglecting to clean up after herself. We moved into an apartment together very quickly. Her parents pulled her from college and demanded she return to her home state. We had been dating for about 3 months at that time. She suggested we get an apartment together, claiming it would be cheaper for me to move in than stay in the dorms. I admit I tend to agree with others in situations like this and didn't stand up for myself or my future. We moved in a week later to an average apartment in the middle of nowhere. I still attended university and worked a lot. I was drained most days while she worked a full-time job and paid the rent. I pay utilities and other bills. One day, she asked if we could get a dog, so she would have company while I was at work or college during the day. I agreed to consider having a dog, but at that point, we had only been in the apartment for about 2 months. One day during my break at work, I saw a post about a dog that needed to be rehomed immediately because he was being bullied by other dogs. I figured, why not get him and make her happy? I messaged them and agreed to pick him up the next day. When I brought him home, there were definitely some issues. He was scared and extremely malnourished. We took him to the vet and tried to train him. Not much has worked. He can't maintain a routine and constantly has accidents inside. I have tried for over a year to get him to go outside and nothing has changed. He also barks when we aren't giving him attention. When we try to sleep, he growls, nips, and barks until he gets attention. She doesn't help because she tries to reason with him as if he's a person, but he's not. I have to sit with him for 2 hours every night until he falls asleep. If I stop for a moment, I have to start all over again, and I am exhausted. I haven't slept well in a long time. I'm at my limit. I have seen therapists and doctors who just prescribe medication for my depression. I have cried myself to sleep many nights because I feel so unhappy, yet the thought of leaving her or getting rid of the dog upsets me. I care for both. I have considered giving up, but I can't do that. I can't put my family through that because we have had close relatives do the same. I don't have much hope anymore. I feel so lonely and lost. My depression has derailed my college experience completely, and I was dismissed this last semester. I don't know what to do. Story 67. I drive for a living. The biggest secret I keep from my wife is how many times I have almost been seriously injured or killed at work. She doesn't need to worry about that. Just today, I had a driver run a red light when I was first in line for the green. Fortunately, I saw him coming, but one of these days I might not see the threat. Story 68. I really enjoy gaming. I built my own PC and didn't share the cost of a few components, only with those I asked. So there are no lies technically. However, she grew up in a different environment, and it has been a rough road for her to accept my hobbies. Her sister clearly stated that gaming is not for mature men, which I find disrespectful. It takes time to change people's minds. Even more disturbing is that my graphics card, which I purchased during the pandemic for $1,000, can't keep up with current games. Story 69. My bank account. I didn't know how much she made, but I knew how much she spent. I can keep a pretty close running total in my head from month to month. She didn't know how much my salary was when I was a grade foreman at a road construction company. I paid the rent and she paid the house bills. We split the grocery bill each week. She would pay half at the checkout and I would pay the other half. She also didn't know my hourly pay when I returned to the mill. I guess she always wondered how much money I had because I would take her and 6 or 8 people out on the boat on Saturdays when I was off, and it was nothing to spend $500 on everything, including food, drinks, dock fees, and gas. Her money is hers and mine is mine. Story 70. Not me, but my ex-husband. We were married for 8 years and together for 10 with 2 children. He didn't tell me he was gay. I found out from his affair partner's partner. We are now getting a divorce. Story 71. Nothing. Why would we keep things from each other in case the other disapproves? Communication is vital. Story 72. My cousin has caught my father-in-law on a dating app on numerous occasions. My wife and mother-in-law have no idea. I will never tell them. Story 73. The reason I don't want to be physically intimate with her is that she's no longer emotionally attractive to me. I don't want sex to be meaningless. Story 74. She was against marijuana since she grew up very religiously. For 2.5 years, she had no idea I was a frequent user the entire time. Story 75. No real big secrets, but I probably don't share how lonely I am day to day. I am at home with the kids full-time, which I love. However, as a dad, it's socially isolating. She knows, but maybe not as much as I truly express. I have never hung out with anyone in the town I live in. Not once, and it's been years. Sad to even mention. Maybe I will take this down later. Story 76. Her friends would flirt with me and try to make advances, which I refused because my girlfriend at the time was already wild and would push most of her close friends away. I didn't want her to have no friends and be with a terrible partner. We split up and she ended up with my friend. Then I was left thinking I should have been more open with her friends, but now they don't want to be involved. They just seem toxic. Story 77. When she starts snoring, I know she is in a deep enough sleep that I can take care of myself. When I finish, I sneak to the bathroom and wash everything down the drain. If that woke her up, I would just say I needed to use the restroom. Story 78. We broke up last year after being together from 2018 to 2024, but I hid from him that I was sexually assaulted by my coworker at a party in 2021. I concealed it because he was very jealous and reactive, and I knew he would have worsened the situation for me. It was really hard because I was severely traumatized for a while but had to keep it in and deal with it secretly around him. Story 79. I don't think he is a great artist. I believe he had the potential to be good but never found his niche. He thinks that understanding the technicalities of a brushstroke means he is skilled at it. He often tries to give me advice while I paint, and although I listen, I find it difficult to take advice from someone whose art is mediocre at best. Fortunately, art is not his source of income. Story 80. I love her as a friend, but I am quickly falling out of love with her, and it hurts. We were supposed to get married, and we are still engaged, but she made a massive mistake, and nothing has been the same since. I was madly in love with her before that. She has had an extremely traumatic life, and I don't fully blame her for what she did, but I am tired of being hurt. At this point, I feel like I am staying because we share pets, an apartment, and I don't know what else to do. I am slowly realizing that I need to delay the wedding because I am not ready for it. Story 81. I don't hate you, but I don't think you're a good man anymore, and that's worse, really. After the child has graduated from high school and started college, I will be divorcing you. Once it is final, I will do my best to never speak to you again. I wish you well, but the thought of giving you any more years of my life makes me feel overwhelmed. Story 82. No secrets, just a few different fantasies I am afraid to fully express. I have mentioned them before, but nothing more. Story 83. Not me, but my soon-to-be ex-husband kept his numerous affairs from me. I guess the latest one got tired of being a secret for 3 years and confronted him while we were together on my birthday, which happens to be Valentine's Day. Story 84. I used to post on TikTok. I didn't have many followers, and it's just embarrassing that I did that. Story 85. I had an intimate relationship with the wife of one of my best friends before they started dating, and he is aware and accepts it. She is now my wife's favorite friend from our group, and she remains unaware of the situation. Story 86. I sometimes buy a gaming gift card when I go grocery shopping, usually spending around $5 to $10. We often live paycheck to paycheck on a single income. It was nice to reward myself occasionally, but I always felt guilty when we had to choose between buying food and getting gas. The good news is we are now on a double income. I work 2 jobs, and she is a teaching assistant while pursuing her real estate license again. Story 87. The actual cost of golf equipment. I buy most of it used, but I am enthusiastic about gear, so it adds up regardless. Story 88. Remember that night we tried something new, and you wore that blindfold the entire time? You seemed to love it even more. It wasn't just the sensory deprivation you experienced. It was also that unexpected surprise. I noticed that your father is 1.5 inches taller, and his account is about $3,000 short. But that $3,000 was spent entirely on your birthday, my love. Story 89. At the moment, I'm reflecting on my bisexuality. I don't think he will care, but since he is straight, I feel awkward telling him. Story 90. I have donated a significant amount of money to those less fortunate than me and purchased a few more items for the gun safe than she is aware of. Story 91. No matter how happy she makes me when I am with her, it only makes me more depressed when I am without her. Story 92. I want to have a threesome with another girl, like my best friend, but I don't think he would be interested. He doesn't like her, Story 93. I read fanfiction, and I'm so embarrassed about telling him because the majority of the stories I read are about anime characters. I'm really dorky and emotional, but I think he already knows that. He's the exact opposite, and sometimes I get scared he won't like me anymore if he sees the real me, but so far he still likes me. We're married. Story 94. I cannot talk to her. We have a disconnect because she lacks accountability and does not acknowledge how her actions and behavior have affected us. Story 95. I loaded the dishwasher incorrectly and turned it on after she went to bed, only to find perfectly clean dishes the next morning. Maybe she knows. Story 96. I'm single now, but my ex-girlfriend used to think I was involved with a lot of girls and had sex every week. I never let her see my phone, and she thought it was because I was being unfaithful. The truth is, I was embarrassed because I only had conversations with my mom and my brother. I feel like a loser and a virgin. Story 97. Details about my magic. The Gathering collection and the separate PayPal account I use for my hobby. The account only contains proceeds from selling cards on eBay and TCG Player that spike in value, and I use the funds to buy more cards. It currently has around $400 and has fluctuated between $50 and $3,000 over the last decade. I don't hide it per se. She just has no clue and doesn't care. I think she simply assumes I trade cards to acquire the newest sets for our decks. I don't believe she knows what our collection is worth either. It's not excessively valuable, but I do own a decent amount of reserve list cards in my legacy deck, valued at approximately $2,500, and my vintage deck, valued at around $6,000. She is only familiar with the cards in our commander decks that she plays with, which do not contain anything particularly valuable. Our will includes instructions regarding some of the valuable cards. Story 98. I deal with a chronic illness, and she gets me through everything. I don't know if I would be here without her. She keeps trying to make me see the light at the end of the tunnel, but a year and a half later, I am still dealing with this. She's the only thing, along with my cat, keeping me afloat. I feel bad about it, and she knows that. I just want to make her proud. I am 30 and have been trying so hard to get my career started, but I can't even work because of the disease. Story 99. It's a secret that few people know, but after my ex and I broke up a few years ago, I started gambling. Initially, it was just for fun, but it quickly became an addiction after I went to the casino for the first time last year. It's not easy to admit that I have a problem, let alone seek help. Story 100. When he was emotionally unfaithful to me a couple of years ago, his best friend told me that he liked me and suggested that we could try to start a relationship after I broke up with my partner. Story 101. I am scared that dropping my dream to make this relationship work was a bad idea. To be clear, I do not know if it was a bad idea. I just feel scared. I also still want to die. Story 102. I think about ending it all the time, and the only reason I don't is that I don't want to hurt them and leave them behind. Story 103. I have been keeping a log of the things he says in his sleep, and I sometimes giggle at them when I'm having a bad day. One night, he sat up straight in bed and passionately told me that he wanted to be a model. He then fell backwards and went back to sleep. He also once woke me up just to say, lettuce, which is funny because he doesn't even use the English word for that when he's awake. Story 104. I think I don't deserve her. I don't deserve her comfort, care, or love. My mind has been troubling me for so long that the idea of having someone like her feels impossible because I always hear something in my head telling me that I will ruin it no matter how hard I try. I guess her lack of expressiveness doesn't help my situation. I said I would wait until she feels comfortable enough to open up, but I don't know how long I can wait. Story 105. The biggest secret I had as a person I did not keep from her. She already knows everything and has supported and accompanied me. Story 106. I am slowly losing my grip on handling stress. I have been lied to and broken, but I have never experienced love on an astronomical level, which is what you provide. For the first time in my life, I feel complete and happy. For the first time in my life, I worry about financial situations, about work, and about the future. Finally knowing I can slow down at the end of the day, crawl into bed, and cry if I need to. Although it's overwhelming some days, I struggle to convince myself I'm doing good by providing assistance for others as a social worker, that I can make it to the next paycheck, and that I can be the person you need to help you grow. So when I go silent, I pray and thank whatever entity is watching over us and guiding our decisions that I can open my eyes and hear you asking me if I'm okay. My world was never meant to be dealt with alone, and you are my partner forever. Story 107. I don't always finish when we do, but I act like I do. I don't always have the motivation for it, so when we do, I don't genuinely enjoy it. I want my partner to be happy. Story 108. Things I didn't tell my last girlfriend because early in the relationship she reacted poorly to the few things I shared about my dating history. That the night I revealed to her that I liked her. A couple of hours earlier I had helped a friend who was stressed about an exam she was studying for. That I got an ex-girlfriend pregnant and she had an abortion. That a couple of years before we met, one of the 2 or 3 girls I was seeing casually for a few months unexpectedly told me she was actually 17. That another girl I had dated briefly was an incredibly immature 18-year-old who was still in high school. That while we were getting to know each other but not dating, I visited my family over the holidays and hooked up with a girl I had dated years earlier. The threesomes. None of them. Story 109. My epilepsy drains my energy daily to the extent that I look forward to a natural death. I am not suicidal. I simply long for rest. Story 110. I bought a chocolate bar from the store, ate it on the drive home, and not only did I not share, but I also didn't buy him one either. Story 111. The only secret I keep is that I use nicotine. My mother and my wife were diagnosed with cancer on the same day a few years ago. While coping with the severity of that, I was juggling a promotion to management and the qualifications that came with it. I needed an outlet. I tried weekend drinking, but that was counterproductive. My brother had just come out as an alcoholic. He was really struggling, so I outright stopped to remove any temptation or positive reinforcement. I didn't want to go off the rails, but the stress was getting to me. I was on antidepressants, but they made me feel numb, which didn't solve anything. I switched to nicotine. I smoke at work during my breaks, and honestly, it is the most relaxed I feel all day. My wife found my vape once and flipped out, saying it was disgusting and unattractive. She claimed we would never have been together if I smoked and threatened to start using it too. I told her I stopped, but in reality, I just got better at hiding it. It is frustrating. Both my mother and wife are in the clear now, and my brother has overcome his addiction. However, it has had a heavy impact on both their lives. My mother can't walk far, and her surgery area developed a massive hernia. My wife is always tired and in pain. I have qualified, but my workload keeps increasing, and nicotine is the only thing that gets me through the day. We are going through fertility treatment. When we started, I didn't use nicotine, so all my blood tests were clear. I need to quit before the next set of blood tests, or they might cancel the treatment because I won't be eligible. It is tough. I don't want to quit. I feel guilty, but I need it. I also need to stop. I can't tell anyone about it and just need to battle it alone. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.